Good morning. We are moving on from area of composite figures to volume of prisms. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between area and volume. Area is the space that a two-dimensional figure takes up. Volume, and we've talked about volume in science as well, volume is talking about a three-dimensional figure. And again, it's talking about the space that it takes up, but it's not flat. It's not a 2D figure, it's a 3D figure. And something important to keep in mind is that when you are talking about your units with area, it would be like feet squared, units squared. It's a two-dimensional figure. In this case, it's a three-dimensional figure, so it's units cubed. Units cubed. So keep that in mind. Don't use your exponent of a 2, use your exponent of a 3. Now your formula for volume of prisms is the same for everything. So volume equals, and it's capital V. So I think in the past I've talked to you about using all lowercase variables. The reason being is because now in uppercase, a capital B means something very different than a lowercase b. So keep that in mind. So the formula for any prism, V equals capital B times height. This capital B, instead of a lowercase b that just means base, this capital B means area of the base. So depending on what type of prism you have, you could have a rectangular prism, so the base is a rectangle. You can have a triangular prism, so the base is a triangle. You can have any type of base, right? You could have a pentagonal prism, so the base is a pentagon. When you name the prism, the name of it is the shape of the base. So the only two that we're working with in this section is, it's really only a rectangular prism and a triangular prism, so we're not getting into anything too complicated here. But your formula is the same for any prism, capital B times H. So it's the area of the base times the height of the actual prism. So let's talk about and I'll kind of show you, I set up today's notes like a T-chart. So on the left we've got a rectangular prism. And then on the right we've got a triangular prism. So we're going to focus just on the left side first with the rectangular prism. So this is called a rectangular prism because the bases are rectangles, right? If you kind of sit it on a piece of graph paper, which I'm just going to show you for a second over here, the shape that it makes, in this case it's a triangle, you'll see right here, that is the name of the prism. So it creates a triangle, so it's a triangular prism. Yes, these sides create rectangles. However, not all sides are rectangles. Two of the sides are different shapes. We only have the rectangles there because they connect the two bases. So every prism is going to have sides that are rectangles. However, you've got to look at the bases and the parallel bases that are a different shape. So if they're all rectangulars, then it's a rectangular prism. But if you have two shapes that are different, then it's that kind of prism. So if these were pentagons, it would be a pentagonal prism. In this case, because it's a triangle, there are two triangles, it's a triangular prism. So kind of keep that in mind. Again, we're only working with rectangular prisms or triangular prisms in this section. So, rectangular prism. To find the volume of a rectangular prism, you start with your baseline formula, which is V, and it's capital V for volume, equals capital B times height of the prism. And again, capital B means area of the base. In this case, you have to know what the formula is for area of and again, the base is a rectangle. So you've got to know the formula for area of a rectangle, which, based on last section, you know. This is the formula for area of a rectangle. So you would write this original formula in blue, and then you would break it down. Area of the base, well, since it's a rectangle, you would do length times width. And then multiply it by this h, the height of the actual prism. So if the length, if this were 3, 2, and 4, right, obviously not to scale, I would do V equals, the length would be 3 times 2 times 4. And usually I would actually write this like that, so that I know it's length and width, and then I'm multiplying it by the height of the prism. So 3 times 2 gives us 6 times 4. V equals 24, and let's call these feet cubed. And that would be our final answer. All right, let's move over to triangular prisms. So in this case, over here, sorry, let me just pause for just a second. Last year, 5th grade, we are adding on because you likely knew that the formula for volume of a rectangular prism was length times width times height. However, because we're in 7th grade math, we add on to what we knew in 5th grade. Instead of saying length times width times height, the actual more appropriate formula is capital B, area of base times height. So it's the area of the base times the height of that prism. Do not just write length times width times height. That is our 5th grade formula. We need to ramp it up and add on to it. And our 7th grade formula is the one in blue. Over here, again, we're using the exact same formula. V equals capital B times H. This is the formula that you will use for any prism. So the base is a triangle. The height of the prism is how tall the prism is if you set it on its base. So if you set it on the table, the height of it is how tall it goes up. Now, if you think of a triangle, the area of the base, you find the area by doing 1/2 base times height, and then times height of the prism. What's important to keep in mind is that these two numbers are not the same. Also, I used a capital B up top and a lowercase b in the second, more broken down formula. Those are not the same. So if we looked here, let's kind of break this prism down. Let's count the units. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, I think that is 5 units. And then let's call this 7 units. So the height is 7. So I'm going to rewrite this down here. B equals 1/2 base times height. Let's talk about the area of the base, the actual triangle. The base of the triangle is this 5 or the 4. It doesn't necessarily matter. It depends on how you look at it. But it's the 5 or the 4. It is not the 7. So the base of the triangle is 4. The height of the triangle, which is perpendicular to the base, it is again not the height of the actual prism. It is just the height of the triangle. That would be 5. And then times the height of the actual prism. And again, that's how tall the prism is if you set it on a table. So that is 7. Keep in mind the height of the triangle is not the same as the height of the prism. And then, so 1/2 times 4 is 2, times 5 is 10, times 7. So V equals 70, we'll just say units cubed. Alrighty, so we kind of broke down that original. We will not break down this one. But if we pretend this said 5 units tall. This height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So the height of the triangle is 6 units. The base of the triangle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is 9 units. So that 5 is the height of the prism. This 6, that dotted line, is talking about the height of the actual triangle. Again, that is related to the base, the area of the base, that capital B. When you break it down, to 1/2 base times height, it would be 1/2 times 9, which is the base of the triangle, times 6, which is the height of the triangle, times 5, which is the height of the prism. So I will write that. So V equals 1/2 base of the triangle times the height of the triangle times the height of the prism. Alrighty, so we're going to work through a couple examples here. Again, keep in mind that your original formula that you need to write every single time is that capital V equals capital B times H, and then break it down. Alrighty, so example 1. This is find the volume of the rectangular prism. Again, pause me if you need to write. Take time to write, go ahead and do that. But let's start with our original formula. Capital V equals capital B times H. And again, capital B is talking about the area of the base. So in this case, first off, it's called a rectangular prism. So you would know that the base is a rectangle. Also, just by looking at the three-dimensional figure, you would know that it's a rectangular prism as well. So we would break this original formula down and write, well, capital B, area of the base is a rectangle, so it's length times width. And then you're going to multiply it by the height of the prism. So let's call the length of 5, the width of 4. So 5 times 4 times the height of the prism. It is 3 centimeters tall. So 5 times 4 gives us 20 times 3. We get 60 centimeters cubed. Remember, you're cubed, not your squared. So it's pretty basic once you know what you need to plug in. Again, you have to start every single time with this original formula and then break it down. Alrighty, example 2. Find the volume of the triangular prism. So volume, we automatically know that we need to start with that original formula. V equals capital B times H. Capital B means area of the base times the height of the prism. Now, again, looking at the figure, you would know that it's a triangular prism. However, it also tells you it's a triangular prism. So for area of the base is a triangle. So it's 1/2 times base times height of the triangle times height of the prism. So in this case, the base of the triangle is this 8 feet. The height of the triangle is this 6 feet. And if we set it on a table on its base, it would be 9 feet tall. So let's plug in what we know. V equals 1/2. Again, the base is 8. Times the height of the base, which is 6, times the height of the actual prism, which is 9. So 1/2 times 8 gives us 4, times 6 gives us 24, times 9, and we get V equals 216 feet cubed. So again, you are allowed to use a calculator in this entire chapter, but so that means obviously in this section as well. Do not forget your units cubed. Now, this set of notes really isn't There's not a lot of content. You just have to be sure you are using your formulas correctly and that you are understanding where your numbers need to go. Area of the base. If you're a triangular prism, the numbers should only be attached to the triangle, not the height of the prism. So keep that in mind. I'd like you to go ahead and complete the got it's on page 640 and 641, and then pause the video and then check your work with mine. I'm going to go ahead and complete got it A. It says find the volume of the rectangular prism shown below. I'm going to start with my original formula. B equals capital B times H. Since it's a rectangular prism, I know the area of the base is length times width, and times height of the prism. So my length, 9.5, width is 5, height of the prism is 3. So B equals 9.5 times width, which is 5, times the height of the prism, which is 3. Again, it's how tall it is. And if you mixed up, in this case, one of those numbers, it really doesn't matter, just so you know. V equals, so 9.5 times 5 gives us 47.5. V equals 142.5 meters cubed. Alrighty, let's do got it B. So it says find the area of the triangular prism. So I start with my original formula, capital B equals capital B times H. Capital B means area of the base. Since this is a triangular prism, to find the base is a triangle, so area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height of the triangle times height of the prism. So in this case, base of the triangle is this 4, height of the triangle is this 5, and if we flipped it on its base on a table, it would be 7 inches tall, so this is the height of the actual prism. So let's plug in what we know. V equals 1/2, base of the triangle is 4, height of the triangle is 5, times height of the prism, which is 7. So 1/2 times 4 is 2, times 5 is 10, times 7, V equals 70 inches cubed. Ooh, that's a terrible circle. Oval. 70 inches cubed. Alrighty, so take your time with your homework tonight, or today. Be sure to check it with my work. You have to show all steps. So likely you will need to do it in your notebook, just because you need a little bit more room. Be very careful and diligent about deciding what numbers represent what length of the prism or what value of the variables. And let me know if you have any questions.